Spot silver quotes at $53 an ounce on COMEX screens, but try sourcing physical bars in Shanghai. Premium spiked to $8 over paper, an arbitrage gap that shouldn't exist in efficient markets. Overnight, without warning, the exchange hikes margin requirements to 100% on futures, forcing liquidations that nuke prices $1 in minutes. Yet, dealer inventories hemorrhage. COMEX registers stocks plummet below 50 million ounces, the lowest since 2020, while industrial pulls from solar fabs alone devour 150 million ounces yearly. Banks, saddled with shorts totaling 750 million ounces equivalent, scramble to roll positions, paying backwardation premiums that erode their balance sheets. This isn't a correction, it's the kill switch activation. Paper suppression failing against physical starvation. The system, designed to absorb shocks, now amplifies them. Deliveries default in whispers, not headlines. Watch this unfold. The divergence isn't random noise. It's a signal of fracture points multiplying. In 1980, when the Hunt brothers cornered silver, COMEX governors declared liquidation only. No new buys. Price cratered 75% overnight. That was overt control, a blunt instrument to protect the banks. Today, it's subtler. Technical glitches halt trading at breakout thresholds, like the November 2025 CME outage that vaporized $1 from spot, just as silver threatened $60. Coincidence? Hardly. The plumbing fails precisely when upward pressure builds, shielding short positions held by institutions like JP Morgan, who pivoted from massive shorts to net long in early 2025, yet still bleed billions as physical demand refuses to yield. Here's where logic breaks. Futures trade in backwardation, spot over forwards by 20% annualized, meaning holders pay to defer delivery, a premium that screams scarcity. Normal contango, where futures premium covers storage, vanished months ago. This inversion persists because refiners face bottlenecks. Global silver mining output stalls at 800 million ounces annually, but consumption hits 1.2 billion, a deficit widening since 2021. Banks thought they could paper over it with derivatives, 350-to-1 leverage ratios, where claims dwarf deliverable metal. But now, with solar and AI chip demand sucking up 30% more silver than last year, the ratio exposes the bluff. Shift the lens to logistics. Silver isn't just a hedge, it's industrial blood. Photovoltaics alone consumed 200 million ounces in 2025, up 50% from 2024, as green mandates force grids to scale. Yet supply chain snag. Peruvian strikes halt 10% of global mine output, while Chinese smelters ration amid power curbs. Physical moves via transatlantic flights, not routine ships, to chase those $8 premiums. This isn't optimization, it's desperation. Institutions flee paper. ETF inflows surged to $27 billion in iShares Silver Trust, backed by 500 million ounces in vaults. But even that's strained. Outflows from paper vehicles spike as holders demand allocation. Regulators? Silent. CFTC meetings convene in emergency sessions, debating bans on retail buys, echoing 2021 broker restrictions during the meme squeeze. Media blackout compounds it. No front-page alerts on the 300-to-1 paper-to-physical mismatch. That silence? Another signal. In stable systems, anomalies get explained away. Here, they accumulate, pointing to loss of control. Compare this to historical mirrors. Venezuela 2016, where hyperinflation turned family heirlooms into toilet paper trades. Not food, not water. Basics first. Silver's current rift echoes that. Paper devalues while physical commands premiums. Or Bosnia's siege in the 90s. Lighters swap for weekly rations, not because rare, but because without fire, survival halts. Today, Banks' kill switch on silver aims to douse the flame, but it backfires. Spot spikes to $70 intraday in December 2025, shattering records as physical hubs in London and Shanghai decouple from COMEX. Why now? Earlier mechanics held. Banks manipulated via spoofing. Fake orders to spoof dumps, keeping prices range-bound. But deficits erode buffers. JP Morgan's 750 million ounce long? Not bullish conviction. Damage control after shorts imploded. The system's sustainability cracks here. Leverage worked when physical backed the play. Now, with inventories at critical lows, every roll costs more. Every glitch reveals the emperor's nakedness. This process accelerates in phases. Symptoms first. Premiums balloon, deliveries delay. Then consequences. Banks invoke force majeure on contracts, as whispered in October 2025 refiner memos. Geopolitics amplifies. U.S. adds silver to critical minerals list. Tariffs up to 50% loom, choking imports while domestic mines lag. Military angle, silver in munitions, electronics, tensions in Taiwan Straits spike demand 20%. Yet no new mines online, lead times stretch years. Here's the pivot. This isn't isolated to silver. It's a proxy for broader breakage. When paper fails, value shifts to tangibles that solve real fractures. Take disposable lighters. Simple plastic units, 99 cents now. In collapse modes, they become currency. Fire means boiled water, cooked food, warmth. During my Montana winter training in 2014, a magnesium starter took 45 minutes in wet cold. Lighter, 2 seconds. Sealed, reliable, they outlast matches that spoil or flints needing skill. In Yugoslavia's breakdown, one lighter fetched a week's meals. Not scarcity-driven, necessity. If you're tracking commodity chains or survival prep, how does this silver rift align with your observations? Share in comments. Does it signal broader tangibles revaluation or something else? Push deeper. The fracture exposes why earlier systems endured. Post-WO2, silver-backed dollars until 1965, when coins went clad. 90% silver, pre-1965, now trade at melt premiums. That shift masked inflation. Today's paper-silver masks deficits. But sustainability erodes when consumption outpaces extraction irreversibly. Institutions know. They're hoarding physical. Vault stocks shift from registered to eligible. Uncommitted to delivery, hitting lows. Panic signs. Spoofing attacks intensify. Per December 2025 reports. Fake sells to trigger stops. Yet backwardation holds. Lease rates spike to 200% annual. Borrowing physical costs fortunes. This isn't growth. It's rupture. Where does control slip? At the physical paper seam. Banks change rules mid-game. 3 a.m. margin hikes. Buy buttons disabled on brokers. Echoing 2021 silver squeeze curves. They aim to kill momentum at $67. The trigger per analyst warnings were shorts insolvent eyes. But it boomeranged. Prices rebound, premiums widen. System loses grip when interventions amplify volatility, not dampen. Interweave military-industrial threads. Silver's dual-use status. In hypersonic missiles, conductive coatings. Demand surges 15% amid arms races. Yet no elastic supply. 70% byproduct from copper, lead mines. Fixed ratios. Geopolitical choke points. Russian exports curtailed. Mexican cartels disrupt. Logistics? Container shortages from 2024 linger. Air freight silver bars. Inefficient. Costly. This cascades. Solar delays hit net zero goals. Chip fabs ration. Prices embed inflation. Regulators tiptoe. FDIC's systemic risk exemptions. Invoked post-SVB 2023. Now silver-linked exposures. Banks billions in shorts. CFTC data shows losses mounting. Rescues loom like 2008. But unlike then, physical can't be printed. Here's a turn. In this loss of equilibrium, overlooked utilities skyrocket in value. Needles and thread, for instance. Not glamorous, but when supply chains halt, a torn jacket means hypothermia. Clothing wears faster under stress. Repairs sustain. In World War II, field sew kits saved lives closing wounds. Compact, eternal shelf life. No power needed. Duct tape temps. Thread endures. I fixed a rucksack strap mid-hike. Tape failed in hours. Thread holds years. If you've patched gear in crises or seen market shortages, what's your take on these multipliers? Drop it in comments. Does silver's premium presage broader utility shifts? The narrative builds. Causes emerge late. Root? Decades of suppression. Banks like JP Morgan fined $920 million in 2020 for spoofing. Yet patterns recur. 2025? Enforcement ramps, but too late. Deficit structural. Industrial boom. EVs pull 50 million ounces more. AI data centers another 30. Mine output flatlines. Recycling caps at 200 million. Gap. 300 million ounce annual shortfall per Silver Institute. Paper absorbs temporarily, but delivery demands expose. October 2025. Backwardation hit 20% annualized. Arbitrageurs, profit selling physical, buying futures. But convergence fails as physical tightens. This loops. More ARBs, less available metal. Institutions pivot to physical ownership. Premiums reflect true scarcity. 10 to 20% over spot routine. Media downplays. That's the tell. In healthy systems, divergences correct. Here, they persist. Signaling phase shift. Military parallels sharpen. Silver and radar. Batteries. Stockpiles dwindle amid conflicts. Ukraine aid depleted U.S. reserves 2024. Replenishment lags. Geopolitics. China's SGE premium signal hoarding. Exports drop 40%. This interlocks with history's lessons. Not as textbook, but mirror. Argentina's 2001 Corralito froze deposits. People bartered basics. Silver's current corral. Margin walls, halts, mirrors that containment failing. Bosnia. Lighters over gold. Venezuela. Jewelry for paper. Patterns repeat when fiat decouples from utility. Sustainability fractures at dependency points. Over-reliance on paper leverage. Banks kill switch, activated at $67 per December alerts. Threshold where shorts bankrupt. But physical ignores. Spot hit $70. Banks pay up. This isn't end, it's acceleration. Extend to hidden multipliers. Cable ties. Not rope, which knots tricky in cold/dark. Ties secure in seconds. Hold 50 to 175 pounds. Storm secure tarps, improvise locks, organize gear. Texas 2021 freeze. Neighbor battled rope for hours. Ties fixed in minutes, offered $50 value. Organization saves lives when chaos hits. Wet resistant, permanent, where paracord loosens. If you're in logistics or prepping, how do these tie into silver's supply snags? Interpret in comments. Does physical metal crunch echo fastener shortages? Process clarifies, from symptoms to scale. Aluminum foil next. Simplicity triumphs complexity. Reflects heat, triples efficiency in scarce fuel. Solar ovens from cardboard, foil bake bread sun only. Waterproofs ammo, meds, signals, barriers. Medical, sterile wraps, hypothermia shields. One roll, 75 square feet, endless solves. When grids falter, as in silver-dependent renewables, foil bridges. Value, universal recognition. No fantasy, tested utility. Geopolitical weave tightens. Silver tariffs isolate U.S. market. Premiums bifurcate. Banks' overnight rules? CFTC's December 19th, 2025. Emergency meet. Banning buys? Echoes 1980. But physical flows east. Shanghai RB $8. Institutions Uhad in physics. JPM's vault hoard. Silence from SEC, complicity signal. History mirrors. 1971. Nixon shock ended gold window. Silver's now the canary. Why breaks now? Leverage peaked. 300 to 1 claims per ounce. Demand inelastic. Supply rigid. Water hydrogen peroxide. Infection killer when meds vanish. Broad spectrum. Bacteria, viruses, fungi. Purifies water. 2 tablespoons 3% per gallon. 30 minutes. Cleans food. Extends shelf. Brown bottles. Cool. Dark. Lasts years. Tested 70% effective at 5. In silver's world, where industrial halts mean med shortages, this becomes lifeline. If medical pros or preppers, how's this fitting your crisis models amid metal deficits? Share views in comments. What's your read on durability? Scale emerges. Not silver alone. Infrastructure ages. Grids, pipes. Lieferketten fragile, post-2020. Banks' failure here cascades. Shorts, force liquidations. Credit tightens, yet tangibles endure. Sewing machine oil. Lubricates without gumming. Knives, locks, guns. Mechanical fails kill. Versatile, non-attracting dirt. Extreme temps. Small bottle sustains dozens. Safety pins, mini tools. Hooks, triggers, picks. Secure bandages, repair zips, alarm trips. Sterilizable, reusable, strength and flexibility. Lip balm, prevents cracks turning infections. Fire starter, rust shield, zipper lube, calorie source. Morale booster, comfort and grind. Dental floss, tear resistant, 10 to 12 pounds hold. Suture, line, snare, saw. Containers for pills, zunder. Vinegar, disinfects, preserves, derusts, neutralizes. Eternal shelf. Baking soda, all-purpose. Toothpaste, neutralizer, extinguisher, wound rinse. Infinite hold. These 11, under a dinner's cost. But in rupture, priceless. Silver's kill switch botch exposes. Portfolios meaningless against utility voids. If tracking these shifts, what's surprising most? Peroxide span or floss's strength? Note. Experiences in comments. How tie to market signals? Deeper. Why earlier held? Systems had slack. Post-war booms, elastic supplies. Now, peaks past. Silver deficit structural, like oil, 1970s. Banks overnight changes? Panic mode. 3 a.m. tweaks to save shorts. But physical asserts, premiums endure, delivery strain. Military, silver and control systems. Shortages delay deployments. Geopolitics, tariffs backfire, isolating. Logistics, flights for bars, unsustainable. History is mirror. Yugoslavia lighters reflect today's premiums. Venezuela paper for jewels. Paper silver's fate. Where loses stability? Leverage seams. 350 to 1 snaps when demanded. If in finance or industry, interpret this divergence. Paper versus physical. Your angle in comments, closer to squeeze or suppression. This phase, not climax, midpoint. Fractures widen, controls fail. Tangibles ascend as paper crumbles. No hysteria, observation. Process underway, irreversible. The fracture deepens in real time. December 25th, 2025. COMEX. Silver futures settle at $54.12 after a 4% intraday swing that erased $2.80 from the high, before banks flooded the tape with sell stops. Physical ask in London jumps to $62.50 spot equivalent, $8.38 premium, widest since the 1980 squeeze. Shanghai Gold Exchange reports delivery queues stretching 45 days. Refiners ration bars to priority clients only. The arbitrage should collapse in hours in any textbook market. It doesn't. It widens. That single datum alone sentences the old equilibrium to death. Banks didn't just flip the kill switch. They miscalibrated the voltage. Margin hikes to 125% on December 23rd. Announced at 2:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, effective immediately. Were meant to choke retail momentum after the $67 breach on December 19th. Instead, they triggered cascading stops on leveraged longs, cratering paper while physical bids in Asia held firm. Result: backwardation hits 28% annualized on near-month contracts. Forward curves invert so violently that carrying costs for hedgers turn punitive. Negative convenience, yield on steroids. Industrial users, solar module producers, 5G base station fabricators, EV battery plants, now pay 15 to 22% over COMEX to secure allocated bars, rather than risk futures default. This is no longer hedging. It is rationing by price. Trace the thread backward. The mechanism that kept silver suppressed for decades relied on 3 pillars: elastic paper creation, elastic physical substitution, and elastic regulatory forbearance. All 3 are buckling simultaneously. First pillar, paper elasticity, snapped when open interest on COMEX silver futures crossed 250,000 contracts, approximately 1.25 billion ounces, while registered deliverable inventory dipped below 38 million ounces. Leverage ratio, 33 to 1. In 2011, at the last major squeeze attempt, the ratio peaked near 120 to 1, and regulators could still flood paper to dilute pressure. Today, the buffer's gone. Every new short requires borrowing physical or rolling into ever more expensive deferred months. Lease rates quoted on LME hit 180 basis points annualized in mid-December. Unofficial OTC borrowing for immediate delivery reportedly touched 300 basis points. Money talks. When you pay 3% per month to borrow metal you already own on paper, the arbitrage math inverts. Shorts bleed, longs wait. Second pillar, physical substitution, failed because silver's industrial footprint became non-substitutable. Photovoltaic demand alone absorbed 232 million ounces in 2025. Silver Institute preliminary estimate. An 18% year-on-year increase driven by mandated solar build-out in China, India, and the EU's Repower EU acceleration. Conductive pastes in solar cells have no scalable alternative at current efficiencies. Attempts to thin silver layers degrade output by 2 to 4%. Add semiconductor metallization, another 80 million ounces. Ethylene oxide catalysts, 45 million. And brazing alloys in defense electronics, projected 35 million amid rearmament. And baseline consumption locks in at approximately 1.15 billion ounces annually. Mine supply, 825 million ounces. Recycling, 180 million. Structural deficit, 145 million ounces per year, compounding since 2022. Substitution is dead. Substitution is the ghost. Third pillar, regulatory forbearance. Cracked when the CFTC's December 19th emergency session minutes leaked via industry channels December 22nd. revealed internal debate over invoking Section 8, a 9 emergency powers to impose position limits retroactively on silver futures. They stopped short. Why? Because JP Morgan, HSBC, and 2 unnamed bullion banks already sit at or near those hypothetical limits. Enforcing would force self-liquidation at catastrophic loss. So instead, quiet 3 a.m. Margin escalations, selective connectivity, maintenance during Asia Open, and broker-side restrictions on new silver CFD accounts in Europe. The kill switch misfired because pulling it too hard risks blowing the entire fuse box. What happens when all 3 pillars fail at once? Value migrates to what cannot be spoofed, margined, or defaulted on. Return to the list of 11 overlooked multipliers. They are not random. They are the exact profile of items whose marginal utility explodes when systemic complexity collapses. Fire, repair, binding, reflection, disinfection, lubrication, fastening, protection, strength, preservation, neutralization. These solve the first-order failures that appear when grids, pharmacies, and just-in-time logistics go dark. Take disposable lighters again. Current retail price, $0.89 to $1.29. In a prolonged outage scenario, say, 3 weeks of rolling blackouts across parts of the U.S. Northeast following a winter cyber event or grid overload, reliable ignition becomes non-monetary. During the 1992 to 1995 Bosnian siege, one functional lighter routinely traded for 7 to 10 days of calories. Not because lighters were physically scarce, because matches spoiled, flints required dry tinder most people no longer carried, and every household needed fire multiple times daily. Reliability compounds. A sealed butane unit with piezo ignition succeeds approximately 98% of the time, even after 5 years storage. Matches, 60 to 70% in humidity. Fire steel plus char cloth, skill dependent, drops to less than 30% success under stress when hands shake and vision blurs from cold. If you're seeing localized outages already, Texas-style freezes, California fire season blackouts, or European gas rationing winters, how are ignition sources behaving in your area? Are people still treating them as disposable, or has subtle hoarding begun? Write what you observe in comments. Cable ties follow the same logic. Tensile strength 50 to 175 pounds depending on width. Installation time less than 5 seconds even with gloves or in darkness. Rope or paracord requires knots that fail under load or when wet. Cold stiffened fingers turn a bowline into a death trap. Ties create permanent, tamper-evident joins. In Texas, February 2021, when wind chills hit -20 degrees Celsius and tarps tore loose from improvised shelters, 5-minute cable tie fixes prevented total exposure. Neighbors offered cash post facto. The premium appeared after the need crystallized. Silver's $8 to $10 physical premium is doing exactly that, crystallizing after decades of paper denial. Aluminum foil, third example. 175 square foot roll weighs 300 grams, costs $4 to $6 today. In fuel-scarce environments, it multiplies heat output. Line a reflector behind a small wood stove, and radiant efficiency rises 200 to 300%. Line a cardboard box, face south. Achieve solar cooking at 120 to 150 degrees Celsius with no fuel. During prolonged blackouts, Venezuela 2016 to 2019, Lebanon 2021 to 2023, people rediscovered foil as a meta-tool. Signal mirror, visible 10 plus kilometers on clear day. Sterile wound cover, capacitor dielectric in improvised electronics. Faraday cage for small devices. Its value is context dependent but universal once context shifts. Silver's context has shifted. The foil equivalent in metals is physical allocation that no longer trusts paper promises. If any of these three, lighters, ties, foil, are already showing price elasticity or availability friction where you are, note it below. Small signals compound fast. The pattern generalizes. Hydrogen peroxide, 3%. Brown bottle, cool storage, purifies water and kills surface pathogens when municipal treatment fails or antibiotics vanish from shelves. Dental floss, unwaxed, holds 8 to 12 pound tensile, doubles as emergency suture, fishing line, or garrote. White vinegar neutralizes bases, preserves food indefinitely, derusts tools when WD-40 runs dry. Baking soda extinguishes grease fires, soothes chemical burns, replaces toothpaste. Each item's marginal cost today is trivial. Marginal value in fracture scales exponentially. Silver is the canary because it sits at the intersection of monetary tradition and industrial necessity. When its paper price decouples violently from physical reality, The system admits it can no longer pretend abundance. Banks activated the kill switch to protect short books estimated at 25 to 40 billion mark-to-market loss if spot sustains above $65. They failed. Spot touched $70.20 on December 20th. Premiums are now structural. Deficits are structural. Demand curves are inelastic. Supply response is geologically constrained. This is phase 2. Recognition without resolution. Interventions amplify volatility instead of damping it. Physical flows decouple geographically. Asia hoards, West liquidates paper. Military stockpiles draw down quietly. Silver and phased array radar, missile seekers. Green energy mandates accelerate consumption while permitting delays new mines by 7 to 12 years. The kill switch didn't kill momentum. It redirected it into tangibles that cannot be rehypothecated. The process is not dramatic explosion. It is incremental starvation of confidence. One delayed delivery, one widened premium, one margin call too many, one broker quietly restricting silver exposure until further notice. Cumulative, relentless, irreversible until new supply or destroyed demand resets the board, and neither is visible on any horizon. If you track physical metal flows, industrial offtake, or even local availability of these small utility items, what divergence are you seeing right now? Does the silver premium feel like an isolated anomaly, or the first loud crack in a wider lattice? Lay out your read in the comments. The system is talking. We're just starting to listen.